Good morning, everyone. Today is Saturday, May 1st. Finally got a free Saturday to start on my garden. I'll be planting some of the seeds that I started in the last video. Some germinated, not all, especially the herbs, which I figured I was going to have a problem with anyway. So I'm going to show you what I have, all the tomatoes. You'll see those. You'll also see me start the seeds that I start directly in the ground, like watermelon and what else do I start directly? Cucumbers if I have them, and green beans, pole beans. So I wanted you guys to see what the garden looks like. It's not perfect. I've weeded over the last week. I haven't even picked up all the weeds, so you'll see some weeds sprouting throughout. I've got my soaker hoses on now so that when I plant my transplants and my seeds, they're not going into dry ground. I don't want the transplants to die or dehydrate. So I'm going to hold up one of the soaker hoses now because later you may not be able to see them. So here they are now, soaking. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 or 7 of these. Can you see these? Can you see the water dripping? I think. Either way, you'll see them as we get closer, some closer shots of me transplanting the vegetables. So I look forward to growing with you guys this summer, and let's get started. Okay, so I'm starting my first tomato transplant here. I'll put my gloves back on. Let me see if you can see this bucket. In this bucket I have some compost that I made. I have one of those compost spinner type things. Anyway, so I dug some out and I brought some with me. If you can tell, everything isn't completely broken down yet, but I think it's pretty good. But this is kind of what I do every year. Some people are asking what I add to the soil when I plant. So this is my compost. If you're not going to purchase compost from, if you're not going to grow your own, of course you can purchase some from the store, or you can do some good garden soil, some good planting soil too. So my hole is dug. For the most part, my soaker hose, if you can see, is right here. So it's running the length along just under this fence line. It's running here, so as the tomato grows, the root system gets watered instead of the ground and everything around it. These are weeds. I can't stay on top of them all. I'll be picking them out as we go. Okay, so handful of compost goes in the bottom. I try to mix it up a little bit with what's kind of already in there. Now this compost has been sitting for several months. My particular tumbler has one side for what you're actively putting in, and then one side to kind of let it sit and rest. So this is the rested side. That's why you don't see fresh vegetables in here now. So I'm going to pick one of my tomatoes. I had to transplant these from the little black tubes that we started with. This one says pineapple, so wish me luck. I'm going to take out my little stick that says pineapple on it. A little name stick here. I'm going to stick it there for now. I'm going to turn it upside down, squeeze gently. Look at that root system. Pretty good, huh? Alright, so I'm going to make some room in here and hope that I dug deep enough the first time. Pretty good. So now I'm going to add a little bit more compost around it. Stand her up. A little bit more compost around it. Gently press down, and then I'm gonna backfill with the previous dirt gently. Now these tomatoes are tall enough now that I can lean them up against the fencing like so. Should be good. Okay, one down, several more to go. Also, if you can see it in the image, this is my attempt. Oh wait, sorry. Okay, so I stick my pineapple stake in there. Now I know what I'm growing there, which tomato I'm growing. And yeah, that should be good. There we go. Tomato plant. So this is my attempt at growing peas. It's May. I don't know that these are going to grow. I'm not good at growing peas, clearly. So you'll see a few of these in the video as well. I'm going to leave them here and see what happens. They're not bothering me right now. Even if they do start to produce, they're not going to be in the way of the tomato plants. The tomatoes are going to take a while to produce anyway, so I'm going to let them stay and see what happens. I usually give my tomato plants about a foot or so, so I'm going to skip this space and plant here next. Let's see. Move this one to the side. These are weeds that I didn't get previously, so I'm going to pull these out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, you're going to end up pulling some weeds and things all growing season. But the good thing about the back to Eden method is I'm not getting a lot of weeds. I mean, this is nothing. This doesn't take hardly any time at all to kind of pull that out. So, can you see this here? No. Okay, so I've got one of my tomatoes transplanted already. That's this one here. Excuse that. Gift from my mother-in-law. One of my tomatoes planted here next to a pea that we're going to see what happens with it. I'm going to plant my next tomatoes transplant right next to it, and this is in, let's see which one this is going to be. This one is called Golden Nugget. Golden Nugget, and we're going to plant it here. So it's a little difficult to hold the camera, of course, and get a good angle where you can see all the tomatoes being planted. But essentially, so I'll dig the hole. I will add compost to that hole. Then I add what I'm transplanting in the hole. I backfill with more compost. And then as a topper, the original soil goes on top. At the very end, I will cover the area with the mulch. The mulch acts as an insulator, so it prevents some of the really hot summer heat from getting deep into the soil. It also traps in the moisture from my soaker hoses. And then, so you can see here, you can see my soaker hose is here. All right, I don't know if you can see that black right there. That's my soaker hose. I've got to cover that up, but it's dripping down into where the tomato is planted, and that's going to be the same case here as well. So when I come back, hopefully this row will be done, and I'll walk you down the row. All right, I'm back. So I have one row of my tomatoes planted. I added a little bit of water on top because it's starting to get warm, and it's going to take a little bit longer for the soaker hoses to really get the ground wet. But here we go. So here are my tomatoes here. That's a pineapple. This is a pea that I left. That's a gold nugget tomato. More peas here. Black crim tomato. Peas. Purple. Let me see. What is that? I can't even read my own writing, but it says purple something tomato. A couple peas still interspersed. This one I tried to lean up. It's not quite tall enough yet. Maybe it'll stay. Maybe it won't. Here's another tomato. This one is Rutgers. Moving on down the line. Peas. Oh, there's a tomato here. So in this Rutgers one, there were two. So I'm not sure if this one is going to survive, but we're going to try. So there might be a Rutgers here and a Rutgers here. This one, what? I think this one is Rutgers as well. I'm going to stick that there. And then we've got a beefsteak down there. So I'm going to continue with what I've got going on. Another row of tomatoes, and then I'll plant some peppers. I think that'll be it for the live plants, and then I'll get started on my seeds. Hopefully I'll get the majority of this garden planted today. I also want to plant my sunflower seeds while I'm out here. So I'll show you soon what we've got. All right, so I'm putting in the last of my peppers, and I forgot to mention something previously. When I started on my seeds, I started them in these. Most of the plants that you saw previously had been transplanted into these red solo cups. And some of you guys may have a question of, well, why'd you do that? So here's an example of some peppers that are kind of outgrowing this little space. So when they outgrow this container, the roots can get root bound and they don't continue to thrive. So what I'll do is I'll transfer them into a solo cup like this, so it's bigger. It's more space for them. In order to do that, I normally just push it up from the bottom like that. If you can see it coming up like that. and I transfer it into a cup that's filled with soil already. So that's a little hint. If you start your seeds and they're just growing like crazy and they're outgrowing their space, transfer them into a cup until you're ready to plant them outside. Okay, so I'm just about finished up for the day. I've got my live plants, my transplants planted. I've got my seeds in. I've got a few rows of summer squash, some cucumbers, some green beans, some patty pan squash, okra, and watermelon and cantaloupe. So the last things that I'm going to plant are sunflower seeds because I just like the way they look in the garden in the summer, and that's it. So my next video will be an update to see how the plants have grown, if any pests have gotten to them, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.